Hello and welcome back to the Guide to Digital, Episode 5, Loops. So today we're going to be talking about loops, and loops are really a fundamental part of automation in most programs. As you can see in the image in the background, a loop is something that goes and happens again and again and again. So anytime you see a program doing a lot of something, there's a very good chance it's happening in a loop. So we're going to look at a couple of concrete examples. A reminder that this is meant to be a hands-on guide. So you should have a Jupyter Notebook running through Binder on your own browser so you can go in, enter code, play with the code here, and really kind of experiment and play around. If you don't have that set up, please go back to Guide 1, which will give you the instructions you need to get set up. And then you're also going to want to go through and run all of the code cells down to this point, because we're going to be using stuff right from the very beginning and in episode 2, variables. So away we go. So looking at loops, and you've got a bit of an explanation in the background here. This is an example of a loop in Python code. For person in team, colon, then with some white space, print person. So a loop is really, really interesting. So what we're doing, we have a variable team that we created way back up at the start. And this variable was a list of all of the people in our teams, just their first name. So what a loop is going to do is for each element in that list, and we're calling that element person, it is going to do something. So it's going to automate that action. And the action we're asking it to do is to print the element. So think for a second, figure out what you expect to happen here, and then again, running a code cell, we're going to hit Shift and Enter. And here you'll see we get a list. It's printing out each element, so each person on the team. So again, this works really well for a list of 5 people. It works just as well for a list of 100 people or 1,000 or 1,000,000 people. So if you have a list or a dictionary or a set of data, Python or computers and applications can go through and do that thing hundreds, thousands of times. And one of the tricky and key things about this is it doesn't take any more work to program that in. So if we had 100 people in our team, to actually write the code to do that, to print out the name of every person on our team, is exactly the same as if it was 1 or 2. So this automation is one of the things that can make applications and programs extraordinarily powerful. The ability to scale and the ability to have the computer do work in the background without needing any additional input or any additional work from the programmers. So we're going to give a couple more examples of loops here. So here's one for I in range, in brackets 1, 5. So what you're going to see here is the format for loops, and this is one specific type of loop. There are others, but we're not going to cover them in this guide. For something in something, right? For X in Y. The trick to this is that the piece Y needs to have multiple elements in it. So if we said for I in, and just gave it a number, 10, and then asked it to do something, well, there's only one thing in 10, so that's not going to work in a loop. But if we had a list of 10 numbers from 1 to 10, then for every number, it would do something with that number, whatever we tell it to do. The example here, range, is basically a short way to create a list, and generally to create a list of numbers between a certain number and another. So for I in range, from 1 to 5, we're going to print I times I. So what you're going to notice here, we're going to run this, again, Shift and Enter, is we get 4 numbers, 1, 4, 9, and 16. So what we're doing here is we're starting at the number 1. We are ending at the number 4. So basically in the range function, the final number is not the one that it ends on, it ends one before that. So again, one of those funky little things that programming languages do. So, and in that, we're going to print I times itself. Now, I changes here. So for the first go through, I equals 1. So we're printing 1 times 1. The second time it runs the loop, we go down to the second element in that list, which is 2, and we're printing 2 times 2, which is 4. So effectively, we're squaring the numbers in that list, and we're doing it through a loop. Here's another example. And in this, we're creating a variable first, and our variable is total, and we're setting it to 0. But what we're doing in our loop is we're going for I in range, so the same range function as above, from 1, 11, which means really we're doing from number 1 to number 10 as integers, and we are adding the square of that number. So total plus and equals I times I. So we'll go through and then we're going to print the total. So we're going to run that, and in that one little second it basically ran through from 1 to 10, squared all of the numbers, and added them to our total. And it did this again and again and again. So again, fundamental element of automation in programs, loops. And we can use this really, really effectively in our leave and credit system by basically running through the number of employees and making changes. And this is the way that any modern HR system would work. If you want to do something for 100 employees, or you want to do something for 10,000 employees, you would probably run it in a loop. Pay systems would be an example of this. So here, we're actually going to put that in place. So if you remember, we created a dictionary called leave credits, and the leave credits had a key and a value. So the key was the name of our employee, the value was the number of leave credits that they had. So here, our leave total, so the total amount of leave that our employees could take, starts off at 0. That's just creating a variable. For the key and value, so that's the 2 elements of each part of the dictionary, because a dictionary again is keys and values, and it's a number of those keys. Each key has a value. We are going to print the key, print the value, and we're going to add the value to our leave total. And then we're going to print our total leave hours. And we're going to run that. And this shows you that in the dictionary that we created earlier, we have Tom, who has 80 hours leave, Mandy with 200 hours leave, so on, and the total leave hours for our employees is 785. So this is our example for here for loops, but again, think about anything. You can think about employees, you can think about items in a warehouse, you can think about emails, like anything that a program will use and where it will do something again and again and again, there's a very good chance that it's happening in a loop. So this was a short episode. We're going to close it off here. Thank you very much for joining us, and please come back for episode 6, where we're going to be talking about functions.